Hi, everybody. Michelle here with Josephine. We're matching today.
Yes, we didn't call each other. We didn't know.
We didn't plan it. We're in
Oh,
sync.
yeah.
It's been a while since we've done a video. I know for me, I've been busy with my house. I had like the 1 year come up, so they had to do some warranty stuff. And then I had a patio extension and some other things done, rain gutters and stuff like that. So been kind of busy, but and Josephine's been busy herself.
Yeah, a house is never, it never ends.
And never.
Whether it never ends, whether it's a big house or a small house, there's always
Mhm.
some work to be done, whether it's outside, inside, or whatever, and then whatever. And then being busy, of course, it's like, you know, we're always busy doing something. But
Right,
now we're
right.
doing this because we know some people have asked, right? They
Hmm.
enjoy our video. They
Yeah,
like to listen and stuff. And we cannot neglect those who are in need as well,
yeah, yeah.
right?
We tend to ramble, but that's okay. We're Italian. You should see us where we leave each other voice memos on Instagram. Kind
That's right.
of
Well,
funny. Yeah.
you gotta be Italian to understand that. If you're not Italian, it's like I watch these Instagram stuff about how Italians are. I didn't realize how Italian I was, or my
Yeah,
mother and father. Okay, because
yeah.
after all, we're all born here in North America. But gee, how long is it gonna take before it gets out of our veins and our
I
blood?
know.
Because it's just amazing, isn't it?
And it's not just like blood, I'm only 20%, but I was raised
Yes,
very Italian, with
right.
my dad being from South Philly. He was 95% Italian. My stepdad, but he's been my dad since I was two and a half. And then my mom was half Italian and half English. My grandmother was from Oxford, England. And then my grandfather's parents were from Italy. So I'm only second, third generation in the US. Um, so I was raised in a very Italian environment because my dad wanted, his pasta every Sunday at 2 o'clock and all that.
Yeah, and your dad, the Sicilian, they're even more. There's something else. The Sicilian. That's
Yeah,
a place you gotta go because it's beautiful. And so far as the food, even by the ocean, I mean, it's a beautiful country. And the thing with your dad, I mean, he was not only the fact that he was from South Philly, he had everything. I mean, only by the way he was when you showed me pictures of him and everything. A
I know
real
he
Italian.
like checked all the boxes. Like my friends would come over and they're like, "Your dad is yelling." I'm like, "No, that's how we talk." Like people, we just talk loud and we're
Yeah.
very. I was talking to my aunt and uncle. They came to visit after my mom's surgery, and my uncle and my dad were twin brothers, not identical. And so, listening to them talk, I'm like, what's great? The thing I love about Italians, like they might hurt some people's feelings, but we're very real. Like this is us. Like we just talk, we don't try and like, oh, we don't try and impress people by being
No,
super nice. Like we just are very authentic. And I appreciate that about Italians. That's why we get along. We could just talk and we don't always agree on
no,
everything.
no. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had some Italians before, even clients who were actually were took on the ways of America, and they were just first generation born in America. So I was a bit taken aback from that because really Italians, we can say we can yell at each other, we can tell each other off, and then
Truth.
it's all forgotten. It's all forgotten. We move on, right? It's a
Yeah.
move on. But so yeah. Anyway, so those people were probably an exception to the rule because mostly people move on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about the parasite. So what have you been doing, Michelle? It's
Yeah.
research.
So the other thing, and Josephine brought this up because this past week I released like this big ropeworm. And I think because I did a parasite cleanse like 2 or 3 months ago, and it must have like started killing it then. And then for a couple months, my gallbladder was bothering me, and I was just feeling tight and pain in there. And I'm like, gosh, what is that? So I started taking this herb, Chonka Piadre, and I thought, well, maybe I have stones. So I'll break down the stones and try and get things out. And then this past week, I had like this familiar feeling when I was young and I had mercury in my mouth. I used to have a lot of gurgling here. And I would even joke around and say I got an alien in my stomach. Well, I started feeling that gurgling and I couldn't sleep. And then sure enough, I'm like, I have to check, this growth. But if I think I've released something, I go looking for it. And I couldn't believe what I saw. I was like, oh my God, like I don't eat sugar very rarely. I eat very clean. I don't drink alcohol. I do have dogs. So if you have pets, and you're sharing space, you're going to have that issue. I don't eat out a lot. So the risk, and I'm not around a lot of people, so there's a low risk of me getting them all the time. But we all have them. So like I said, I think this was hiding somewhere, and I felt it coming through my liver and coming out like it was like holding on for dear life. It was like 12 to 15 inches long. But it makes me wonder, like, I think we have a major epidemic because I think about other people who are eating sugar, have tons of animals, they don't do parasite cleanses, they eat out, their stomach acid isn't good. Like when you look at all that, I'm thinking they must be loaded with them. Like if they're coming out of me, I can't even imagine what's in people. When you think of cancer and cyst and stomach problems like SIBO, mental, emotional problems, people who can't sleep at night, like people who are nocturnal, that's the parasites because they're very active at night. So the people can't sleep because they're way too active. I always tell people if you crave sugar at all, you're just feeding parasites and candida without a doubt, because there's nothing in your body health wise that would crave that as a nutritional imbalance.
That's right.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. I have a client, I showed it to you, where she sent me a picture of
Mm-hmm.
a rope one. I mean,
Yeah.
huge, huge.
Mm-hmm.
She must be flying high right now. She's doing a protocol. She's doing a copper protocol, this girl, this woman. She's in her early 50s, I think. And with the copper that she's taking, the extra copper that she's taking, it's giving her the energy in order also to release these parasites. Because
Mm-hmm.
when the body has no energy, it's very difficult to release these parasites. Very hard. And if you do release them, they come back because the body's too weak. So there's
Mm-hmm.
something to be said also about copper, where people now, some of clients who only do the hair mineral analysis and that are not doing the protocol, are doing another type of protocol wherein they take more copper than zinc, let's say. Okay, so because with the copper, uh, in the lymphamin, let's say, for example, there's much more zinc than there is copper. So I have this other client who was always with yet an inversion, a sodium potassium inversion. And since he started this other protocol, and he only does his hair mineral analysis now, he finds that he's never had that kind of energy as much as he has. And also,
Yes.
he's
I'm sorry.
eliminating better. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No, that's
interrupt you.
fine.
Was his NAK, did it go up from taking the copper?
Yeah, yeah, it
Okay.
started to go up. And this gal who had rope forms, same thing with her. She was at low inversion, moderate, and I think even at one point it was a trauma NAK. You think it's a trauma NAK, but then they start taking the spark plug because that's what it is. It's like I did put some copper in my garden this summer, and it was like all of a sudden the tomatoes started to grow more. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they also put copper, let's say, in the water. And we all thought that it was really toxic, all this copper. So me, I would venture to say to people who are listening to investigate this too. You know, it's people need to investigate what works for them. You know, not this is very important. We'll always go back to that. You know, some people do. I mean, I know some people now that take up to 30 milligrams. It's all by drops. They don't take it with supplements, but it's drops, liquid drops, and it's not toxic as they claim it is. And if you would do some kind of research on it, you'd find out that it's not as toxic. And really, we have way more things to worry about other than copper, like mercury, aluminum, boron, and not boron, but bromium, and all these other ones, arsenic especially too, you know, and iron that they keep on adding to our food also. They're adding a lot of iron, like flour and the water we're drinking, you know. So these are like the toxic metals that we really seriously have to start thinking about, because by eliminating those toxic metals, we also are able to deal with the parasites
Right,
as well,
right, because they like
right?
the toxic metals. But the
That's
thing
it.
too, and I've been dabbling with copper, as you know, because we've been talking, but I also, my oxidation increased this past year. And I was more sensitive. Like I would try Limcomin when I was sick, and I felt like it bothered me. But now that I'm not in extreme slow oxidation, I have a lot more energy. I think I can tolerate it better. So, one of the things that both Josephine and I are advocates of is learning. Like, you need to research and be open minded. Like, there's some things, excuse me, why are you being snotty?
What is she doing?
She's snorting. She's
Oh,
being a chihuahua.
okay.
um, it's important to get a lot of information. And I always try to say to my clients, like you have to pay attention to symptoms. I think the hair test tool is great. I love it. I think it's a great gauge. You're able to see how you're shifting, and it is pretty spot on. Like I could tell when I'm in mixed oxidation, showed up on my hair test. I knew I was in a 4 low. I think it works in that respect. But you still have to go back to what are the symptoms that I have too, because you want to make sure that you're not, everybody's body is different. So you could be following a protocol, but you might be a little bit more sensitive. Like I've had clients that are super sensitive to zinc. So all they can do is maybe lick it, because they have maybe too much copper that as soon as they have the zinc, it throws them, it's too stressful for them. So you have to, pay attention to those symptoms and not take, just because somebody else can handle it doesn't mean you can handle it.
Yeah, and there are symptoms for copper deficiency and not copper, but zinc deficiency as well. So some people, they can only take so much zinc, as myself, let's say, and I would get nauseous with zinc.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I always have to increase the copper, let's say, if I need it. But with only zinc, with the amount of zinc sometimes that is given, and if we buy it from Endomet, it's 22 milligrams each. So you're up to over 60,000 milligrams of zinc. That's a lot, because you really got to have a ratio that is balanced as well. So I mean, although that's what I do for a living, and I do hair mineral analysis, I love the program, but like we said, you have to check on these things and look, because I mean, we're coming to a time now that we have to investigate everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's not like it was maybe 40 years ago, even with the food. I mean, everybody's bombarded with all kinds of different information that they weren't before, because first we didn't have this. We didn't have the internet. We had to go to the library to go get books and stuff. And, we kind of, okay, we'll try this, we'll try that. And it was not the same as it is now. Today, it becomes even more confusing for many people.
Because now
And
everything's bad. I was watching
yeah,
somebody who said, you need to wash your towel every single time you shower because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh God, like if we're in fear of every single thing,
yeah,
you just, I mean, let's have some common sense, don't, have the same towel for 2 weeks. Some people don't change their sheets for like a month. Well, that's probably not a good idea. Once a week, I think is reasonable. But if you're sweating, you're probably detoxing. So you'll probably have to change them more often, than that.
exactly.
That's common sense.
It's common sense. It's like everything else, but this is the thing. People have lost common sense. Now with this new AI coming along, which is like everywhere, right? On the computer, chat GPT, Claude AI, whatever. Uh, they're giving you that common sense. So people don't have to think anymore.
They don't
You
want to
know?
think.
No, they don't
It's
want to.
my experience that people don't want to think and research.
That's it.
And the issue is if you depend on other people to give you the information when they don't know you. Like if you go to the doctors and a good doctor is going to listen to you. Like I sit down and say, I'm not going to do anything invasive. I don't do mammograms. I don't do colonoscopies. I'll do this. Like I tell them, we can work together or not, but this is
Right.
how. And I kind of laid down these boundaries. And so far, the past two doctors with me moving have been great because they probably look at me like, wow, there's somebody who's actually active and engaged in their own healthcare. And they're working with me instead of saying, you need to do this. So I think it's really important to have that. It's like an armor, to have those tools and to be educated and decipher through things and listen to your body and be open minded.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sorry, I gotta let my dog out. She had to go
Okay.
back. I'll be right
Okay.
back.
Okay. That's okay.
Come on.
We'll continue talking as if she's there, right, guys? So, anyways, bottom line is that's what it's all about for everybody. Okay, so it's like you need to start investigating. Now we're talking copper, zinc. We're talking when you get on this program, you have to think about what you can eliminate and what you cannot eliminate. Then toxic metals are the most important things to eliminate because then once you eliminate toxic metals, you'll be able to eliminate better you'll be able to eliminate the parasites and the rope worms. You see, so that is essential. If you, the thing is, it's not how long we're going to live because we don't know any of us how long we have on this earth to live. Okay, but what matters is while you're here, you got the brain to hang in because once the brain goes, everything goes. That's the most important thing. You know, if you start having dementia, Alzheimer, and it's becoming to a point where people are becoming Alzheimer at the early age of 40, and probably if it continues like this because we're being bombarded with all these chemtrails and whatever, it could have some kind of effect on us for sure, because people are not as healthy as they used to. People in the old days, they ate all kinds of things. Of course, it was probably all homemade. They ate a lot of pork and they made the salami, they had the mortadella, and they had the ham and whatever else. Today, everything is kind of like iffy, but then we cannot obsess about it either because we're not going to eat. Basically,
Mhm.
me too. I watched these things and I said, well, at this point, we might as well give it all up because we can't even drink anymore. The water's bad. They tell you not to drink the water in the plastic. You can't, so, okay, where am I going to go get my water?
Right?
Right? If you got anxieties and you listen to these things, I'm glad I'm not 30. Oh, God, I'm glad I'm not 30. Because at 30, you're looking for yourself still. Okay, if you're not
Right.
married, don't have the kids and everything. If you have kids, you don't have time. But if you're still looking after yourself, and you don't have anybody else and you're looking for other things, it makes it very difficult. I remember when I was that age, so, but it was easier because we didn't have the internet. Today we have the internet and everybody's got something to sell.
But it's
Everybody does.
also good, because now I have access to information
Yes,
that you have to be able to have discernment
Yes.
and filter, because there's too much information, but there's also information there that could be helpful.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
it. Just like with the copper, probably we wouldn't we wouldn't know about it, okay? Because it's not like there's books written about it. If there's lots of books about copper toxic, but there's no books on this, how good copper is. But once you start reading it, it makes a lot of sense. It's common sense. It is common sense. So anyways, that's about what I wanted to say about that. But the parasites, because it's such a big trend, right? Because Angela right now, she's doing something else, and she finds that she's doing better since she started something else as well.
Yeah, because she's doing something that, is specific to a certain thing that she has. Yeah. So I don't know. I've been doing this, gosh, I think I got really sick back in 2012. Yeah, about 2012. Like, I really thought that I was dying or something. It was a mixture of menopause, stress, parasites. I had been traveling out of the country. So here I am 12 years later, went through menopause, have been working on my healing this whole time. I think I'm more grounded and self-aware and peaceful than I've ever been as well. And I haven't felt this good in a long time. I feel like I'm kind of going backwards with age.
Yeah, yeah. But you're
Mhm.
still young now. I mean, let's face it, being in your 50s. Well, me, I'm in my 60s now. Imagine that. It's like unbelievable. Gina and I, we talk about things as if we'd be 20 and we could still do them. You see what I mean? Go
Right.
buy houses and remodel. And I'm thinking, hey, wait a minute. I'm not 20 anymore. Okay. I have this girlfriend here who moved from the community to go live 1 hour north of this place. And she's 77. Okay. And now she's sick in bed because she's done too much. She had to move. It means that she's the one who packed all her box. Although she's got kids, she did it all. Okay. And then she went and ride her bicycle for 3 hours. Of course, now she'd be in bed. Then she's probably going to be in bed. It's never happened to her because she's usually always very much, but she's another one who thinks she's 20 because we forget. I remember when I would be around, old people would say they forget that they're old. They look at themselves in the mirror and they say, how could
Yeah.
that happen so fast? So if there is no facelift and you don't do the facelift and you got the gray hair and everything else, you say, oh, wow, what happened? And also you start having hip pains like I've had this winter. Oh, yeah, this summer. I
Yeah.
started having hip pains. And in my case, it had to do mostly with the food I was eating.
Mm-hmm.
I was eating the bread. And although the bread was a sourdough, obviously it didn't work. I can't have bread. I can't have
Yeah.
bread. Even if I want bread, I can't have it. I mean, even a slice, one slice, I can't have it. And I started to getting
Gaining weight. Yeah.
yeah. So now I'm back to myself again. But I mean, I couldn't walk all summer. I
I'm
couldn't go.
gonna I'm gonna pause this and get my dog.
Yeah, we couldn't.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, the dog needed to come back in. Is it raining there?
No, but it's been kind of like misty and foggy.
How's the weather there in the wintertime?
It's like right now it's going to be in the 80s, but I think it's going to go down to 70s high this week and 50s low. It kind of does that. It's like Florida. You have like 3 weeks of winter spread out through the whole 3 months.
Yeah, that's nice, huh? Much better than having snow and shoveling or
Oh,
rain all day. Like
I don't do that.
no, rain all day for 6 months almost. It can be depressing if there's no snow
Yeah, I have
as well.
seasonal affective disorder, so
Yes,
I
yes.
can't, yeah, live
Yeah.
in that.
So the
So I'd
founding
rather deal with the
fathers,
heat.
they ended up with the best piece of land in the country in North America.
Yeah.
because you took Florida, Texas, New Orleans, even. Not that I would want to be in New Orleans. They always have something really bad there. If it's not a hurricane, it's something. And I mean, New Orleans, I mean, let's face it, it's New
Well,
Orleans.
I've always said New Orleans is like all the hurricanes go there because there's a lot of sin going on there and evil stuff.
Yeah, yeah, voodoo. Lots of voodoo going on
Right.
there. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of it, for sure. Let's hope that this, I think I saw that in Cuba, they got hit again. Another place in Cuba where they got hit with a big hurricane or something. And I'm thinking, oh no. Anyways, And then
Yeah.
you got North Carolina. That was kind of shocking,
Hmm.
especially in the mountains, what happened there. And they're still going through hell. We kind of know why, or we think we know why. And maybe we don't know the whole truth and nothing but the truth, but we kind of know the surface of it, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. We can
So
kind
this is
of.
the type of world that we live in, guys. So I mean, in the world that we live in, it's time to start getting on our knees and pray, because nobody's going to come here to save us. There's only
No.
one, and that's it. But anybody else, when it comes down to human beings, it's hard to put all our trust, because we get disappointed and we expect a lot, and it really brings us down. People right now on the left, they're going through a big meltdown, big meltdown. And who knows what they want to do.
Yeah.
Because the other one is not in yet. And so that there's a big meltdown on that side. And then on this side, they're all very happy, but we remember how they felt in 2020. It was the same thing. They didn't have the same kind of meltdown, of course, because it's completely different. It's interesting because in Canada, they think that if Trump was going to come in, they weren't going to act as badly as the Republicans did in 2020. It's amazing how people are distorted. They got a distorted mind, very distorted, because it's like they think the left are the quiet type, and that the right are the ones who are rowdy. It's
Yeah.
like, but that's another thing. They don't do the research about anything either. Have
No,
they done the research?
I was watching somebody, I don't know who he was. I think I have to go back on YouTube to look at I think it was on Diary of a CEO. He was interviewing somebody and he talked about how, like, at one point, the left was the more energetic, happier group, but that's shifted over the years, and the right has been the more energetic, happier group. So, I think sometimes there's a switch in the parties, energetically, but to see the shift in general that happened over the last 4 years, even people that I know that were completely against move over, and we saw that in our elections, is a big awakening, but we still have more to do. And I think at the end of the day, if we could just go back to where politics was not ruining friendships and family,
Oh, right.
we have a difference of opinion and policies and things that we feel are important, and respect each other's differences, I think we would do better. But, you know, having one party say our way is the way, and it's just like religion. People think their way is the right way, and what happens is we cause more division. The more we put people in groups and where they identify with something, then that causes division, because at the end of the day, we're all brothers and sisters and we're all humans. But once, like I say, I'm Italian, I was raised Catholic, like once we start putting labels, then that's where we cause separation from our neighbor.
Yeah, and the thing with the politics, because Italians, they always argue about politics. That's the biggest thing. Even if you go to Italy, the old guys, they're all sitting around playing cards with each other. They tell each other off because of the politics, but they continue being friends, by the way.
Yeah.
Because deep down inside, they really know nobody's going to save them. That they know.
Right.
Okay, because basically that's what it is. It's like Gina and I before we started to argue. about something really stupid about Putin, I think it was, and Trump. And I said, let's not think that one is better than the other, because
Right.
quite honestly, we're gonna find out that they're both disappointments,
Yeah.
actually. So I said, it's better we don't put our hopes there. If we putting our hopes, I mean, life is hard as it is. Let them do their job. Okay, I mean, that's how I see. And if we have a lesson to learn from the job, from all these people that ended up voting right now, and I wasn't supposed to talk about this, but you see, it's in my blood. But the thing is, we have something to learn, all of us, from this, because even those who voted and those who didn't vote at all, or whatever it is, we're going to have something to learn about this. All of us will have something to learn, because there's always some providence out of something that's not good. And I think people need to wake up. And this is what I wanted to say. This right now, what's going on with these politics, the politics, whether it's in America or elsewhere, it's the same thing as what happened during COVID. People ended up separating each other as families. Still, people don't talk to each other because of that, because of
Yeah.
COVID, where one took the jab, the other one didn't take it, and because you didn't take it, then you were like poison, so we're not going to talk to you, and stuff like that. I mean, so a bit the same with the politics. And at the end, we're finding out that maybe you should have thought twice before getting that wonderful thing in the body there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's like, and it'll be interesting with Robert F. Kennedy, because he's not against all jabs.
Right.
He concentrates on one. And is he like the father? Is he like the uncle? No.
I think a lot of them should be, left up to people and leave people alone.
Yeah.
Like I think like the measles and polio, like that vaccine has proven time again to work and be effective, but, I think the other things, like the other one that came out, 4 or 5 years ago, to me, that's elective. And you should not vilify people who choose not to do it, because now, we're seeing that it was actually poison to people and they have health issues. I wonder if my mom would have had that spot go to cancer on her lung if she had not had taking that jab. I didn't get it, and my family did, and they all got COVID twice, and I haven't gotten it.
Right.
So I think, it should be a choice, for people, and having people in office like Kennedy and even Trump. Trump's very much elective. If you don't want something, then don't do it. If you want to, then do it. We should have that choice. I mean, if people are going to go on and on about women's rights and their body, well, why can't it be my body? I choose not to put poison. So,
Yeah, well, that's another thing, right? About your body, your choice and stuff. And so people are very
what's
misinformed.
contradicting.
Yeah.
So, we have to be very careful that, my mom said this many times. She was actually a Democrat growing up, and my dad was Republican. So when I started learning about politics, I had two different, parents in my household. And I chose to be in the middle because, to me, both sides were spending millions of dollars to slander each other, and they weren't really helping the people. So I thought it was all BS. I was able to see that very clearly at a young age. But my mom says, anytime something swings too far, and I think this is just life in general, that it's going to balance itself out. And then we find our way to the middle. And so I think that's where we're at. Everything went too far to the left. The very people that were upset that you meaning people, were throwing religion down their throat, were throwing ideology on, you know, sexes and stuff down the throat. So it's almost like you're yelling at somebody for yelling at you.
Yeah.
You can't, you know,
No.
you can't be a hypocrite. You know, if you really feel that you don't want people telling you what to do, then you can't be telling people what to do. And so I think that we've lost our way. We've completely lost our way. And this is where people are not being accountable for themselves. What part of me is not being the best human that I could be? Instead of pointing out other people's flaws and how they could be different, what do I need to work on? And that's what's missing. I think that's one of the biggest things that's missing is that people are not working on themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think that's definitely true, and they've lost all sense of reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason you can only get it through knowing when you get to know the aspect of spirituality, you get to know who's in charge here. Okay. And once you know who's in charge here, and if you start having fear of God a little bit, and people have no fear of God, if you have no fear of God, not, all hell breaks loose because you don't think anybody's watching you.
Yeah.
You can lie, you can cheat, you can do just about anything. Who cares? I'm not going to be accountable. And now even the courts are not accountable. That's the other thing is like, even if you commit a crime today, they bring you in, but they're gonna set you free in no time because they got no place in prison, and maybe they got another agenda for those criminals to keep them out
Right.
too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like uh, you're better off being a criminal in the days in the way that in this
Oh, yeah.
day
The
and age.
last 4 or 5 years, being a criminal was actually like, okay. I
Yeah,
mean, people are just getting away with stealing things and
yes,
being told, well, they need it. Well, that's
I
not how
know.
we deal with things.
Well, yeah, because I mean, people don't realize when we're stealing from, let's say, a supermarket or Costco or something, Costco has to raise its prices every time because every time somebody steals, they have losses. I think places, big places, I know I have a cousin who's got a grocery store here, and I'm sure she gives a lot of the food that away to certain organizations. So they're already doing their part in that, you know. But it's getting to the point where we're kind of living like in Cucamonga somewhere, where we have to be very vigilant in everything. So you see, it starts not just with our health, it starts with everything. The bottom line here is that we're not living in the days of actually, you know, even when I was born, I thought it was the best time. But when I look at history, that's when all hell broke loose 65 years ago, quite honestly, because it
Yeah.
all started to go down. You know, people let go of God, they let go of the church, they let go of all of that and all the values, because that's where you find your values. Where are you going
Mhm.
to go find your values? In a crystal ball? Because basically that's where I was, in a
Yeah.
crystal ball. How did I get married? In a crystal ball, in the sense of, okay, I'll go see a tarot card and she'll tell me if it's good. She did tell me, but did I listen? No, I still went the other way, kind of thing. But you know, sometimes it's like this is why the reasoning has been gone, because we really need to go back to the values, down to the traditions, to where we have not even been in. We've not learned these things because we were not well formed. Who was
Well,
well
yeah,
formed?
yeah, but it still comes down to personal responsibility. So what's happening is people are passing down their trauma to their children.
Right.
It's generational trauma. And so, and then the people who don't want to change and take responsibility, well, you know, it's my parents' fault. Well, you know, you're an adult and there's a thing called
Yes.
therapy and there's a whole bunch of self-help books. So, you know, just deal with it. You know, I think Generation X is probably the most balanced because we had very strict upbringing and we had to fend for ourselves, but then we also started getting therapy and becoming self-aware. The problem is it swung too much the other way and their kids and their kids coddled. And so now we have to kind of go back to being strict. You know, we have to find that balance there because we're just becoming a mess. I am so glad I don't have kids, to be honest with you. So again, it comes down to personal responsibility and
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know, yeah, because if you have values with yourself, then you're gonna have it with the people around you. You're going to have boundaries. You're going to live a more righteous life. I don't have a lot of people I hang around with, to be honest with you, because I don't do the things that other people do.
Well,
I
that's
don't
it.
drink, I eat healthy, I keep a schedule, I work hard, I the average person is checking out, and they're doing things to numb themselves. So I don't really have a lot of things to talk to them about because I love my job, I love my environment. I created a life that I really love. So I don't need to escape. I don't even need to go on vacation because, I
That's
love,
your vacation.
yeah,
You've created that little bubble there
yeah,
in your little house that has become your little sanctuary.
sanctuary.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even
That's,
want to date, I don't want to
yeah,
even, because then I have to think about all these things, and it's just too overwhelming to think about, I'm like, well, if I let somebody in my life, they got to have integrity. They got to not have gotten the jab. They got to not have any drinking problem, eat healthy. By the time you go through this whole list and where I live, the odds of me finding somebody are like nothing.
yeah.
So, that's just the reality. And I'm okay with that because I don't want to live my life where, if I mention God, that
They're going to
the
freak out.
person, well, they're rolling their eyes because they think I'm like some religious person when all
Right.
I did was talk about God. Like you can't even mention God and people think you're a
Yes.
freak or something.
Oh, yes,
But
I
that's
know.
where, I rather just be happy on my own.
Yeah. For now, things we don't know the future. None of us know. Tomorrow we're lucky we're here today. We have a roof over our head. We have food on our table. That's a lot more than many people have. Although there's a lot of millionaires. And I think that was all made by design because the more money you have, the less you're going to get on your knees to ask for help. The more you have, the more because you buy yourself out of your pain. If you're in
Mm-hmm.
pain, you'll go to buy a ticket to go somewhere, buy a house. I have there's new neighbors that just moved in the neighborhood, and they have tons of money. The house is only for a kind of like a chalet for them, a cabin, but it's a house. I mean, it's not
Right.
a cabin; it's a house, okay? And so it's like I don't envy them. It pains me. It's as much painful to see these people with tons of money as it is to see the people on Hastings in Vancouver, where I am, where I look at them and think, it's awful, but they're poor. But when you see these ones who got 4 or 5 cars, and it's as painful, it's too extreme. It's decadent, and then you got total poverty, and you got the ones who are on the drugs and everything. It's like
That's
I'm glad that God is making me see this, though. I must admit, I'm glad. I'm glad to see it, and because I see how painful it is on both sides, because it's as painful to see that as it is to see the other side too.
And we have to
So
be realistic. Like I was watching something where they said that Uber and Lyft are going to be required to pay their drivers like $35 an hour. So, I see people advocating that they want to be paid more, they want better benefits and all of that. But that also means that it's going to cost you money. So, people don't realize, I think, until you've like ran your own business, and a lot of people that are screaming about this, I wonder how many have actually ran their own business. When you run your own business and you see you've got all these overhead expenses and you add them all up, and then your employer takes care of part of so they match your Social Security and Medicare. Well, when you're self-employed, you have to pay double Social Security and double Medicare. So that's 6.5% on top of your regular tax. And, when you add all that up as a business owner, when I was running my business, I was at a point where I was going to have to hire somebody, but I didn't want to have to deal with them saying, well, I'm an employee and then I have to W-2 them, then I have to pay their payroll taxes. And then what if they want health insurance? And I'm like, I got overwhelmed by the whole thing. I'm like, I'm going to go back to work for
yes,
somebody and let
yes,
them do it.
yes,
So I
absolutely,
don't think people realize that there's a
yes.
cause and effect to everything. So
Yes.
if you want more, you're going to have to pay more. If
Yes.
you want free health care, who do you think is going to pay for it? So there is a price to be paid for everything. It's like selling
Absolutely.
your soul to the devil to be rich. There is a price. And so the people that are screaming for all these freebies, they want their education paid for, they want their health care paid for. It's
I
like, well, then
know.
you have government take over, and then you're like where Josephine is at in a certain place that they pay like what, 40% taxes off of
Oh,
your
even more, even more. It takes
45%.
about 6, 7 months. You work for 7 months for nothing, basically, and then the
Yeah.
rest of the year, that's
So
for
all these socialist places, and I know that
exactly.
from closing down an office in Germany with my job, they're the same way. They have healthcare and stuff, but they're poor,
Yes,
and people are just getting by and they work to pay for all of that. So you just got to be careful. And I think the people in the US spoke very loudly. They don't want it. And so we've delayed it a little bit. The global elites will still try and push their agenda, but for 4 years, we've delayed it here. And I hope that during your election, like people get inspired and want to have free speech and they want to, be able to have a business, to be able to have we've always called it the American dream, which we were losing, to socialism. I hope that we can regain that.
yeah. Over here, I don't see many people who that have nots. I don't know where they live. I always say, I wonder what the poor people are doing. Because the poor people are in one district and they're put there, but you don't see them. Okay, so the rest of the world, but like I said, when I was growing up, I remember seeing cars that were awful. They looked like beat up and everything. There is no such thing anymore in Canada. Beat up cars, they don't exist. Everybody rents their cars. $600 a month, that's money. So you kind of think, what are the poor people doing? You know what I mean? So they have, although they've abused the system, and this is why we are where we are too, because they got a little thing. They used to go to the doctor, or they used to go to the clinic, and that's a problem. So I don't really like the system the way it's run here. It's not working. It really isn't. It's not worked ever. People are not well emotionally either. They're so left in the precipice, it's not funny. Everybody's very left. The reason that some people like Trump, but there's only a few, but there are, is because it benefits them, basically. It's all about benefiting them, but they're very left on the precipice themselves. I lost a relationship like that, saying I just slipped. I slipped by saying that the person was very, very left. And they're very left in everything they think and how they think. But they were happy. They wanted Trump to come in, but not for the right reasons, you see. So, I mean, that's why I say we're all going to have a lesson to learn with him. It's not just going to be a one way. This guy's tough. And the people behind him, like, let's not fool ourselves. He's got the people behind him too. He's got,
Well, there's with everybody. There's
that's
no
right.
one person that can,
That's right.
the president, there's only so much they can do because
Right.
we have a Senate, Congress, all this stuff that it takes to actually make change. And that's why you see a lot of empty promises because sometimes their hands are tied. But I think, there was a shift the last year or two with us with freedom of speech. I think Elon Musk buying Twitter was great. I think podcasts have become the new media and the old media is being shown, how corrupt and propagandist that they are agenda. And have you seen those clips where people clip where every single news outlet is saying the same exact thing? It's like they get this script and then tell them all it's brainwashing. That's why I haven't had cable in 13 years because it's brainwashing. I don't want to be brainwashed. I want to be an independent thinker. So I see these clips and I'm like, no wonder people are misinformed because they're just watching the same thing over and over and over again until it's drilled. And then when you ask them how they feel or what they think, they regurgitate the very thing that they're having shoved down their throat.
Yeah.
And they have no opinion to themselves.
Well, now this is a new medium now we're having with Twitter and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And now it used to be the TV, used to be the radio, went from the radio to the TV, now this. So it's like anything, everything has to be taken lightly, basically, because everybody is there. And those with like Elon Musk, the verdict is out. I'm not sure about him. I'm not going to say
Things
too
can
much.
always shift too. They can
Right.
be just like how one party was more for the people and then it switched to the other party. You know, the left used to be supposedly for the people, but now the right is for the people. They're for the working class and they are caring more about the average person. And so things can shift very easily. That's why it's important to always have an open mind because if you stay closed minded to one dogma and belief system, you're not able to see when there's a shift. To say, okay, I need to jump this boat because this boat isn't sailing in the same direction that it used to sail. You have to be okay to say it's time for me to jump.
That's right. That
And
reminds
that's
me
the
of the
problem is
parable.
people are not jumping when they should jump ship.
Right. I'm thinking about the parable of Jesus who tells his disciples because they're all sleeping. Or he was sleeping and they were all scared.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
so
it's
it's a
so
bit like
easy
that
to
too.
see this in other people's life. Like, I've had conversation with my brother who's very left, in California. And I said, it's easy for you to point out what you think are my flaws, but you can't see yours. It's that's why we're deceived. We can't see the things in ourselves. I mean, I do see a lot of patterns. But you pointing at somebody else's does not negate yours. Like you have to still look at
No,
yours,
no, no, that's right. And
Yeah.
the thing with the left too is like before we close, the left has been around for during the French Revolution. That's another thing. There's going to be Stu Peters just did a movie on Occupied. It's going to be called. It's coming out. He says in November. I suppose people will have to buy it or something. But I'm not a fan of his, but I just saw it on Twitter. And but I think there's going to be a lot of truth in there that people need to wake up to, because revolutions are never started by people. They're always started by government, and that's how they began. So it's like government are never to be trusted, but we have to do the best we can in trying to elect the best one that's going to be around in order to make us go through every cycle and stuff. It's too bad with what America has become too, because America, there was a lot of hope for that country. The United States, I didn't even think of going anywhere when I traveled. My place was the USA, and that's it. That's where I wanted to be when I was growing up, and I did. I went and I liked it. Because the minute you go over the border, you feel the freedom. I don't know what it is. I swear to God, it's like, you want to
Yeah.
get on a motorcycle and you just feel the freedom right away. So, but that was then. Today,
We
there's
were
so much.
losing that. We were
Yes,
losing that
yes,
very rapidly,
yes.
and it was not feeling free at all,
No, no.
especially the past 8 years
Oh,
with the social media and the
yes,
crackdown and the, trying to censor. The
yeah,
censorship is where we lost our freedom. And
yeah.
so, if anybody's watching this and you're a little irritated because maybe you still have beliefs with the party that you're upset lost, is just think, if you were to really look at like fascism and, Hitler, all that stuff, we were having our freedom taken away with censorship. That is huge. Like just look at that alone. Forget all the noise. Forget all the noise. I can't even send Josephine something. because she'll say, I can't see it because it's from the US or it's this website. And I always joke around and say, sorry, I forgot that you live in China. That's what was happening to the US. So that's why the people spoke in this election, because we don't want that. I don't want that. I get reminded every time I talk to Josephine or when I close down this office in Germany that I don't want that. And that's the direction that I went.
That's right. Exactly. I mean, there's probably you're the only country left, and how long it's hopefully you'll be able to take it back. We don't know. We'll see, because, like I said, the verdict is out. Let's hope he's going to keep some of his promises or all his promises, and not put anybody in with him that is going to be jeopardizing the whole thing and bring the boat down, because we know there are enemies of the United States.
Enemies within.
There are the enemies within. There's
Yeah.
enemies of Christ, and it doesn't end. So the only thing really we can do now, because now it's the elections are done, is to pray for a better world. Us, we're not in a bad position compared to the young kids that are coming up and are being like 20, 22, 25. We had it good at that age compared to them. Remember? Yeah. I mean, it was freedom when we went. I remember when I was 18, 17, 18 years old, going to California. I mean, it was freedom there. And as it was here, by the way, it was we had a very good country, but it's amazing how it just but they inched it over here. It was inched. And finally, when they got to the door, boom, it was gone. It didn't take long with Trudeau, and now they want to get rid of him, but it'll be interesting who they're going to be replacing him with.
Well, and just I'll end it after this, is if you think about if you've been in a relationship with somebody who's love bombed you, everything looks wonderful and you're so great and I'm going to do this and and it just reels you in, and then after you're reeled in, slowly by slowly your self-esteem is chipped away at. That's what government does. So Hollywood, all these people that are putting on this big show and these big smiles and all these lies, be very careful. It's like a love bombing relationship.
Oh yes, and the thing that's good, because all these Hollywood stars came out, they all wanted people to vote for the other side, and most of them, there's only a minority of people that actually would say who if they voted for Trump, like Mel Gibson. Mostly he did say that's what he was voting for, but there's not that many, and that only that should make us happy. Only that should make us happy for the fair, because they have participated in the ruin of the people, and they know they have, because of the money that was involved, that is involved, and money talks. What can I say? Money talks. So I mean, a lot of them are not even talented, and they're there. Right. There's a lot of talented people on East Hastings, quite honestly, but unfortunately, they ended up on drugs. It's too bad, you see. So this is the moral of our lives and what's going on in the world, and basically do research.
Keep yourself healthy. Do research. I would highly recommend getting rid of cable. Don't watch news. Have a open mind. Be an independent thinker, critical thinker, common sense too. This looks suspicious. Why does it look suspicious? Follow the money. Like, these are all things of a, independent thinker, is to not listen to all that noise. Be very careful.
Yes.
If it looks too good to be true, it is.
Yes, exactly. That's really good advice. Yeah. All right, Michelle. We'll see you.
Good seeing you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Don't forget to do the thumbs up for Michelle, and any questions, please let us know.
Bye.
Bye.